We'd like to thank Farnham for sponsoring this episode of The Ride. Admit it, bugs suck. They're the last thing you want hanging around your horse and stable.
Our friends at Farnham can help rid your barn of those annoying, filthy, disease-carrying bad guys.
If you're ready for the best way to protect your horse, your stable, and yourself, look to Farnham's no-fly solution.
The people over at Farnham have discovered the best way to set yourself up for success is by fighting on all fronts. With their 3-stage approach of block, repel, reduce, you can be sure flies, mosquitoes, and ticks are kept away.
Go to farnham.com, that's FARNAM.com, to learn more and download a free copy of the Horse Owner's Guide to Creating Your Own No-Fly Zone. Plus, you can find money-saving offers to help get you on your way to a fly-free zone. Farnham, your partner in fly control.
Thanks again to Farnham for sponsoring this episode of The Ride. This week we talked to NRCHA professional Erin Taormino.
I was so excited to sit down and talk with Erin. She has really been a huge inspiration to me as I joined the cow horse industry. She has a similar background to you and I, Jillian. She came from the all-around, which Jillian is currently still doing all-around stuff. And then I did the all-around stuff for a long time before transitioning over to the cow horse. And it was just really cool to talk with her because Erin is kicking butt in the cow horse world right now. I mean, she is at the top of every big event, and it's so exciting to see a female professional, out there, because there's not many women that are professionals in the cow horse industry. And it's just really cool to see someone that strong and that talented be up at the top.
Yeah, and honestly, even though I'm started in the all around and I'm still here after talking to her and watching the documentary that she was in, like, I don't know, I might have to start getting my feet wet with the cow horse.
It's super fun. But yeah, Erin, like Jillian just said, she was part of Down the Fence, which was a very big documentary that came out a couple years ago. And that kind of followed Erin when she was still really fresh into her career as a professional. As she went out on her own, she had worked for some really big trainers for a while before going out on her own. But this documentary was coming out around the time that she was first starting to like have her own horses and her own clients, and you kind of saw her struggling, and as we all do, especially the cow horse is really insane because you have to trust your horse 100% or else things are not going to go well. It's not, you can only have so much control when there's another animal in the arena dictating what you're doing, and so it was really, it's cool to look back and see, where she was when that documentary came out and where she is now, where she's winning everything.
Yeah, it was fun watching it right before we talked to her because I got to see like how she started and everything. And then talking to her was where she is now. It was just really cool to see how quickly she, grew her career and how well she's doing now.
So speaking of horse shows, Jillian, you're actually at a horse show right now as we record this, which is why we might be picking up some background noise of horses walking back and forth. And I'm looking at, we record these by doing Teams calls so we can see each other while we're talking. And she's sitting in a barn, with the stalls, horses walking to and from the show arena. So Jillian, tell us what you're doing. Tell us where you're going, what's going on at the horse show you're at.
Yeah, I'm at the Pinto World Championship in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at the Tulsa Expo Center, and today is the first day of showing. So everyone's super excited and kind of getting the start of the horse show under their belts, and so many kids are so nervous and everything, but it's been a good horse show so far. I got here on Friday, so we'll be here for about 2 weeks. So
it's always, world show season's always exciting. There's just something different about getting ready for some of the world shows. I've been to the Pinto World Show once, and it was, they have so many classes. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. I've never seen so many different events at one horse show. So that was really cool to kind of get to be around some new stuff. You know, like you said, you guys just got started, but you already had a girl win. So you guys are off to a really great start.
Yeah, we did. We one of our youth girls won the 14 through 18 showmanship this morning. So at 7:30. It was a
And good
good
way
way
to
to start the horse show.
yeah. Well, and it's Jillian, it's your sister, right? That's the horse that is your the trainer, and you just come along for moral support and to help your sister out how you can,
Yeah,
and do work from a stall.
we do. It's the best job ever, though. I can work from a horse show. You literally can't get better than that.
Yeah, it's really normal for, you know, our job to be, we're posted up in arenas, at stalls, in, you know, living quarters, RVs, hotels. It's kind of the perks of working for an equine magazine, is that, you know, going to a horse show is part of the job, even though we have to sit at a computer for 10 hours or whatever.
But we're still here and a part of it, so it's great.
So anyway, yeah, Jillian's going to be doing some reporting, I guess, from the Pinto world. She's going to, you know, write some articles, and, you know, talk with some exhibitors that have some really cool stories to tell. Maybe she'll even get a couple people to do some Instagram takeovers so we can kind of see what's going on at the Pinto world. But yeah, so be sure to keep an eye out for all of Jillian's coverage while she's out there. Anyway, let's jump into the interview. So today we are here with Erin Taormino, who is an NRCHA professional, and I am super excited for this episode. I was actually fangirling a little bit when I first started talking to Erin about doing this, because I recently got into the cow horse after 15 years in the all around pen, and seeing Down the Fence, which is a documentary that Erin was in, kind of is what inspired me to get out of the all around and try something new. So I'm super excited that you decided to come on the podcast and talk with us.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. So I guess when we usually start a podcast, we try to kind of dive into what your horse life was growing up. I know that you had a documentary that talked about all this, but for the listeners who maybe haven't seen it yet, can you kind of talk a little bit about your horse background and how you originally got involved in the horses?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in Saskatchewan, Canada, and I grew up just, I mean, I don't know, for me it seemed normal, you know, I rode horses for fun, and I had a pony, and I didn't have, you know, specialty bred type horses. I loved horses, and I rode, and I did everything you can think of on them, and I just did it just for purely because I loved horses and I loved riding. And I got into 4-H. They have a light horse program in our area. And I started doing that. And that led to doing some open shows and basically doing same thing, kind of every event you can. And that led to quarter horse shows. And I showed the all around for a few years in my youth. And then one thing led to another. I ended up in Texas to show the all around, and that led me on the path of the cow horse that I never had anything to do with. And here we are today. That's a really short summary of it.
I mean, I totally feel you on going from the all around to the cow horse, because it is so different. And that was like, you know, I did the all around for like 15 years. And when I sold my last horse at the 2011 World Show, I was I don't know what I want to do. And then I got involved with Horse and Rider, and I got to meet all these cow horse people and see the documentary and kind of get into the sport. And I was like, yeah, I want to do this.
Yeah, you know, I love the all around, and it taught me so much, and I learned so much from it and met some incredible people. And I don't even really know why I fell into the cow horse. It's just one of those things that I think happens, you know, it's your path. But I'm thankful it did, because once I got into it, I absolutely loved it, and I haven't looked back, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
Jillian, you're welcome to pop in. This is Jillian's first podcast interview. She just started like 3 weeks ago. So I'm trying to encourage her to speak up, because I'll just ramble for an hour.
No, I'm from the all around background. That's all I've ever known. So I'm definitely gonna start kind of like branching out and
Yep.
trying some other stuff, because I feel like it's a really good place to get started, and then it's cool to see the people that go in different directions from there, but the foundation that they have and everything.
Yeah, I love the foundation that I got, and just the places that it took me, because where, growing up where I grew up, cow horse at the time, I think it's more, there's more of it now, but it wasn't a prominent thing. It actually, I don't even really feel like it existed, or I didn't know about it at all. And so, I'm incredibly thankful for how things developed and happened and the experience I got, because without the all around, it wouldn't have led me at all to where I am today. So no, I think, and the horsemanship skills and just doing all of it, I feel like it holds a huge part of where I'm at.
100%. It's, I am really thankful for that background. And I think for the first time in my life, the first time I did a cow horse lesson, it was for Horse and Rider On Demand, which is our video series. And Brad Barkemeyer was helping me. And he's like, you need to stop sitting so pretty. And I was like, this might be the first time in my life I'm told that I'm sitting too pretty. He's like, you got to hunker down a little. And I'm just like, I'm not used to that.
It feels so wrong.
Bad posture.
Yeah.
But, it's true. I learned that the hard way when I went down the fence for the first time, and I popped right out of the saddle, and he's like, you got to sit down.
No, so true. I've heard that a million times.
So you made your way to Texas. I'm assuming, were you still a youth rider? Were you went to the all around, you went to go learn the all around for youth, or were you wanting to get into it in an open level?
So I sold my youth horse at the Congress my last year, 14 to 18. And then I went to ride with some people as an amateur or non-pro in Aubrey, Texas. And that's, so I was still, and I had a horse and stuff. So I sold my good youth horse, and then I had bought another prospect. And I had went to go ride with some people in Aubrey. And that's kind of how I got to Texas. And that didn't last very long. It just was one of those things that, just didn't work out. So, but I wasn't ready to go home. I love Texas.
Well, it's a little warmer than Canada, I would imagine.
Yeah.
You're not the only Canadian I know that has ended up in Texas and is like, I love it here.
I'm from Florida. I can't even imagine how cold it is in Canada. I don't think I could do that.
Well, Texas had a glimpse of Canadian weather here this past February at the NRCHA World Show. If anybody was wondering, we got really close to Canada weather.
Yeah, you were prepared. You knew what to do.
Yeah, I was prepared, but not willing to accept it.
Yeah, that was a mess. Was it you that was looking for the chains on the tires? I feel like somebody was searching on Facebook for chains for their golf cart or something.
I think that was me. I think I posted a video on where to get chains for golf carts.
I was laughing so hard. That came across my Facebook somehow. I don't know who shared it, but I was laughing so hard. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever heard of needing chains for a golf cart at a horse show in Texas.
Those poor golf carts. Same.
Those poor everything at Texas. Like people, like, oh my gosh, the trailer's freezing, and I couldn't even imagine. But I give you so much credit for doing it though, because I think I would have just been like, you know what, I'm gonna sit this one out.
Well, we were trying to weigh our options, and our power was out at our house in Weatherford, and we were actually, the RV we were staying in was my cousin's, who's also from Canada, so it's a Canadian RV. It's an all seasons. And so we actually didn't really freeze up at all. That RV was a trooper. So I was much more content in Fort Worth with power and some form of water than I would have been in Weatherford with nothing.
See, that Canadian background comes in handy.
Yeah, I know.
I would have had no clue what to have done. Like, I would have had to Google everything. Or I actually moved back to Florida from Texas like a month before those storms came in, and I was really glad that I wasn't there, just because I have no idea. I don't know how to drive in snow. I've never had to.
Oh, that's funny.
Meanwhile, I'm in Colorado, like it snowed 2 weeks ago.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
serious. I saw that. I have some of my friends from there sent me videos. It was insane.
Yeah, it's super fun. Okay, so you end up in Texas and you clearly loved it because you are still there.
Yeah.
How did you go somewhere else as a amateur, or how did you decide I'm going to become an open rider? This is what I'm going to do with my life.
Well, so through a friend, I ended up getting a job at a ranch at Babcock Ranch where Ron Rawls was training out of. And so I kind of, one thing led to another, and I kind of just started helping Ron. And then obviously when Ron left Babcock, I left with him. And I don't ever vividly remember thinking I want to be an open rider. I just knew that I really liked working for Ron, and I really loved what he had to offer and what he was teaching me. And the cow horse was so different than what I had known in the past. I just wanted to learn as much as I could, and I was kind of addicted to it. And I always remember when I was riding the all around, I always said I never wanted to make my hobby my career because I didn't think that I would enjoy it as much, but I couldn't really imagine myself doing anything else. And so I just stayed with it, and one thing led to another. And from Ron's, we had a brief stay at Black Rock Ranch in Idaho. We were there for about a year, and from there we went to Todd Bergen's, and we were at Todd's for 5 years. And I loved it so much. And after Ron's, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I loved the cow horse, and I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. And when we went to work for Todd's, I mean, he taught us so much, and it was just such a great experience that, I mean, I was committed that far, and I was that far into it, and I feel like I'm on repeat, but I couldn't imagine doing anything else. That's where we stayed, or that's where I stayed. And I knew that that's what I really wanted to do. I knew I had a long road ahead of me because I started later in life. I hadn't done it I hadn't done the cow horse from my childhood. Like, I had the all around. So I knew I had a long road ahead of me, and I knew it wasn't going to be easy. But I just, it's become my passion, and I eat, sleep, and breathe it. And it's just, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And it's what I want to do. So I kind of try to tell myself everybody's timeline's a little different. And, I started a little later in life, but it doesn't mean that it's not possible to do and be successful at.
Well, and if you're going to learn the cow horse, I mean, Ron Rawls and Bergen aren't a bad way to get into the sport. That is for sure. Like you learn from the best.
Yeah, and I try to keep my eyes and ears open and listen to what people said. And, people always told us that if you want to do it and you want to do it right, pick people that you want to learn from, that you respect their programs, and that, you have to commit to them. You can't, I was told all along, you can't learn somebody's program in 1 or 2 years. It's 3 or 4 years in of a lot of hard work, and, you have to be dedicated, and good, bad, or indifferent, you have to stick it out, because I think the key to everything is consistency and a foundation. And I feel like, you can always tweak your programs when you leave somewhere to fit you, but you have to have a foundation, and you have to have consistency. And if you jump from place to place to place, I wholeheartedly don't feel like you can get the consistency within yourself that you need if you go to 6 different guys in 2 years or 5 years. Even if you stick with a couple of programs that you respect and you dedicate yourself to, it'll come through in your work, the consistency, because, I mean, that's all you're going to know.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And, like what you said earlier just really made me think, like, you really don't learn enough in those first couple of years. It really does take that 5, 6, 7 years of being with, a professional who has proven themselves and has the horses and the business. I mean, because learning the business is a whole other thing. You think horse training is the hard part. I would say owning and running a business is the harder part.
I had no idea. Todd always told us that, horse training is one thing, running a business is another thing, and you don't really grasp the concept of that. You're like, oh, you can smile and nod and be like, oh yeah, 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 and then you go out on your own and you're like, wow, it wasn't kidding.
Yeah, when I graduated college, there was a period where I was not really sure what I was going to do with my life, and I worked for somebody who I would consider a father figure. And after like 5 years, he was like, he's like, you can do this and you do well at it. He's like, but it's a hard living, and he's like, and I was like, okay. And I thought about it, and I was like, I think I'm gonna go and I'm gonna use my degree and stay in the horse industry, but approach it at a different way, because it's a very tough lifestyle and industry, and you have to work really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I wholeheartedly believe, they don't joke around when they say you get out of it what you put into it.
I think
So
it's impressive for you that, you came into the discipline not really, as knowing as many people as you did in the all around, and being able to become such a well-respected trainer in the industry. That's, that's kind of hard to do, just because, getting people to trust you and things like that, it really shows a lot about your training and work ethic. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think if you just stay true to who you are, and you commit yourself to your program, and you're just, if you're just a good, honest, hardworking person, it'll take a little bit, but people will believe in you. And you're everything, you have your ups and downs, but I mean, you just have to keep your head down and keep working, and it'll come around and pay off.
So, you've talked a little bit about the, people who kind of helped mentor you or just get you involved in the industry. Were there any horses that you really credit to, either just boosting your confidence or just like making you really realize that this is the sport that you want to be involved in?
Early on, I don't really think I showed much when I worked for Ron. So, I rode a lot of horses there. And just the horsepower that Ron had when I worked for him, it kept me, it's those horses that really let you feel, what a good cow horse was. That obviously helped the drive. And then when I went to work for Todd, he gave me, a couple fraternity horses, and I showed a couple of older horses, and had made when I was working for him, made a couple of lower level finals, or what have you. And those, not any horse in particular, but just the horse quality that I was able to ride there. That in itself, drove me, that I wanted to be able to make that or have a horse, like have the horsepower that he had, that Todd had, or that Ron had at the time. Have that horsepower. I wanted that in my barn I wanted to have that for me, for myself one day. And obviously some of the stuff that when you're an assistant that you get to show maybe isn't like what everybody craves to show, but I feel like maybe those lesser horses, I did well with them, and they teach you as much or better than what, if I would have gone to ride a great horse when I worked for him, I think I learned more from maybe a little bit lesser animal, because it just teaches you so much about showing and training, and it grows you as a trainer and a competitor. So, not early on, I don't have a specific horse, but the ones that I did get to show, especially when Todd would let me show an aged event horse or something, obviously they're not going to be something that he wants to go show, or he would have done it, right? It's just the way it is as an assistant. But I'm so thankful for those horses that I was able to get to show and walk in that show pen on, because every time, I learned something new, or even in preparing a horse, those horses teach you so much about what you need to do. And unless you stay relevant in the show pen, and when I say relevant, I don't mean winning necessarily, but unless you keep yourself walking in the show pen, it you don't know how to stay relevant in training because there's just it's just so different, if
Oh
that
my
makes sense.
gosh. Oh my God. Yeah, no, it makes total sense. Things are always changing. And I think as we evolve as a sport, not just the cow horse, but just the Western industry in general, like, the breeding we're doing, the training, it's so specialized now. Things have really, really changed from 20 years ago when we were even showing. And so, yeah, it is really important to stay relevant in the show pen. And like you said, it's not always who's winning, it's who's actually going to those shows and who is,
Yeah.
constantly out there. But no, I totally, I think having horsepower really does help teach somebody how to do it. It is a lot easier when you have somebody or a talented horse that can
Yeah.
kind of guide you into the sport. I got really lucky. I have a bridle horse that's won about 50,000 in the non-pro, and he saves my butt all the time because I still don't know what I'm doing. But I have to say that really helped me gain confidence, especially working a cow, because it is so different from anything that I ever done, or Jillian or whatever. And but yeah, those horses are fantastic, and I am so thankful that I have that horse because he's really helped me. But those lesser horses, those are the ones that really teach you how to be a trainer and how to ride, and
Yep.
and you learn not to, you can't create a program around what you like. You have to learn to read those horses and understand what their strengths and weaknesses are. And I think it makes you a better trainer.
I couldn't agree more. And I don't know if I answered your question like completely how you wanted, but when that's what when I work for him, early on, I don't have a specific horse because I think I learned so much from each one of those horses that I was just thankful. And when you're an assistant, you're thankful for every time you get to walk in that show pen, and every time you walk out, you better yourself and you better the horse and you better the person you work for, because it just helps you understand what the process is and what you're trying to learn and what they're trying to get you to do. It just grows you. If this is what you want to do, situations like that just grows you more than what you realize. I think I realize it more now than I did even in the time. Now I think it makes more sense than it did, you know, at the moment. So
Yeah, that's so true. It's funny how when you're in the moment with the horse and learning and things, you don't really realize how much you're learning until you apply it to a different horse or something else, and then you're like, "Oh, I'm really glad that I had to work that hard with that horse." So,
yeah, yeah, you have those aha moments.
yeah.
Gotta love those aha moments. Those are the things that keep me doing this
Right.
after what, 20 some years, and I'm still going, oh, that's why he did that.
Oh.
So how long after working for Ron and then Todd, and how long after that did you decide that, like, I'm gonna go out on my own, this is what I'm gonna do?
So when we were at Todd's, we got the opportunity to go work for Gardner Quarter Horses. And so, I honestly, we were at Todd's for 5 years and I still didn't feel like I was ready. I hadn't shown as much, as a lot of people in my situation had. And obviously starting later, I just felt really green still to the sport. But at the same time, I knew that the only way I was going to get better and the only way I was going to grow is if I basically took that step or took that leap and went and worked for somebody where I was going to get to show as much as I wanted or more than I even wanted, and I mean, I felt like in a sense too, I was maybe throwing myself to the wolves a little bit, not necessarily knowing everything I needed to know. But so after 5 years at Todd's, my husband and I went and worked for Gardner Quarter Horses in Ashland, Kansas, and we were there not that long. I mean, a year and a half, almost 2 years, I guess. But it was an incredible stepping stone for us, and I mean, I got to walk in that show pen so many times. Fortunately, I was eligible for every level you can imagine in the cow horse, which was a huge blessing. Because that, every little check you get and every situation you get to make a finals or something, it doesn't matter what level it is, it boosts your confidence, and that also helps your program. So 5 years at Todd's and then a year and a half at Gardner's. And then from there, I guess it was almost 2 years at Gardner's. We went to Stewart Ranch and opened up. It would have been the end of 2015, I guess, beginning of 2016. We started our own program and had the amazing opportunity to ride out of Stewart Ranch in Waurika, Oklahoma. And we were there for 3 years, and that place is just amazing. And Terry Forrest is just an incredible human. They opened up their home and their family and their ranch to us, and that's where we started Taormino Performance Horses.
Oh, I love that. I didn't realize you had bounced from Kansas to Oklahoma before making your way back to Texas.
Yep.
But I think what you said, just the people, they opened up the ranch to you and treated you like family. I think that's what I really love about this industry is that people do that kind of thing, and you meet people who are not necessarily family but become family, and those kinds
Yep.
of situations. And I'm sure that's huge when you go out on your own. And I can't even imagine trying to find a facility and, all the things that come with owning a facility, a training facility, trucks, trailers, electricity, people cleaning stalls, if you can even afford that, the shavings,
Yeah.
the hay, the whatever, tractors. I mean, it's just never ending. So that's huge to have had a ranch that you could come in and kind of, figure it out and get going.
Yeah, it was really it was really an ideal. We couldn't have asked and been more lucky basically to have. We walked into a turnkey operation. Terry, and Robert, they set us up. They without them, we wouldn't have what we have. We walked into a ready to go facility. We were, customer horses. We just had an incredible situation, and we were there for 3 years. And we got to know them through when we were at Gardner's. We got to know Terry and Robert, and we became really good friends. And they basically became our family, and they let us into their family. And that's where our son was born. When we were there, and it was just, yeah, they were incredible. They opened up their whole place to us, and we were able to run our business. And shoot, we couldn't ask for a better situation. We were really actually very lucky. So it was a blessing in disguise. We had no idea what we were going to do, and Terry offered the place, and we got there, and we were up and rolling in a day. It was an incredible situation.
So by the time you went out on your own, were you still feeling like you were green? Did you feel like finally comfortable, like I belong here? This is, I'm part of this. Like, what was that like when you decided to go out on your own?
Well, so I'd had a little bit of success at Gardner's. I ended up reserve at the Snafflebit Fraternity in 2015 on a horse that Garth and Amanda owned. And so that gave me some confidence that I could possibly do this, and then after that reserve championship at the Snafflebit, I struggled for a little while, because I had a lot of early success, and so I maybe didn't necessarily, when I left and went out on my own, I had some really nice horses, but I maybe didn't have the horsepower that I needed to compete with all the open guys. And being reserve at the Snafflebit, I knocked myself out of basically every level. So I was an open rider, in a very short time. And so I knew I could do it, but I had some moments where I struggled. Honestly, I had nice horses. Did I have horses that could always compete with a lot of those open guys that are just incredible and have great horsepower? No. And was my program completely finished and solid? Absolutely not. I was still trying to figure out, pieces of it that worked for me, and to combine all three events and get that consistency. I struggled for a little while. I really did. And but it wasn't a bad struggle. It was a good struggle. I had amazing clients that stood behind me. They they were, I have nothing but good things to say about them, because they stuck with me through a lot of stuff, trying to find my way and start our business and still figure out your program. And they were just incredible. And I think it took 2 or 3 years after that before I really got a consistency of where I was confident in training, and I could put all three events together consistently. And I mean, I feel like in what we do, if you ever stop learning, then that's where you kind of, you can't stop learning. You have to stay relevant, and you have to keep growing. But after that 2015 win, I had a moment where it kind of, I struggled for a little while trying to really still find my feet and figure out what worked for me. But I think it all worked out, and it's working out. Everything happened for a reason, so I'm very thankful.
I mean, it's clearly working out. You just won what, the Stallion Stakes?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously things are working out for you. You've won. I mean, I don't even know what all you've won this year. I feel like I see your name every time I'm on social media. And are you also doing the Run for a Million Cow Horse Invitational?
Yes, we are.
When did you find that out?
So well, I guess we were at the SRCHA show in Fort Worth here a couple weeks ago now. I heard a rumor about it, and somebody asked if I got an email, and I was like, no, I didn't get no email, but I'm terrible at checking my emails, clearly. So I finally decided to scroll through my email, and there it was. Yeah, I found out. Yeah. Glad
Good thing you checked your email.
Note to self, check the email.
Good things come from emails. So do you know anything about, I mean, I don't know what all you can share. Obviously it's a pretty high produced event with Paramount and Taylor Sheridan, but do you know anything about it outside of that it's an invitational and, they chose, what is it, like 15 riders to compete?
Yeah, they took the top 15 in the NRCHA. And honestly, I don't know that much about it. I know we had to accept the invitation by June 1st, which I made sure I did do that. So
you're like, yes. Check.
But as far as much else, I did ask a couple of questions, but I haven't really, I don't really know. I know it's in August, and it's bridle horse deal. So yeah.
I'm excited. I think it's going to be so much fun to see the top 15 with finished bridle horses that know what they're doing. I think I might even go just for fun. Like, I don't even want to cover it for the magazine. I just want to go and be a spectator and watch it with my friends. And because I was the managing editor of the Rainer for a little bit too. So I have, a background in the reining a little bit. I've never shown a Rainer, but so I enjoy watching the reining and all that, but I was super excited when I saw that the cow horse was going to do an invitational. And I don't know, it could just be because I've like immersed myself in the cow horse in the last 2 years, and I'm just like ready to just go to anything and talk to anybody and do anything. And because it's just so much fun. But I'm super excited for it. I saw that your name was on it. And yeah, it looks like a really good lineup of people. It's going to be a really cool event.
Yeah, it's a great lineup. I mean, to be amongst those top 15 that you get invited, I mean, to be in the top 15 period, I mean, obviously our goals are all to be, in that top spot, but to be able to be invited to something like this, it's just, yeah, I'm so excited. I have no idea what I'm riding yet. I don't know what I'm at. Yeah.
August is still a little ways away. I think you have some time.
Thank goodness. Yeah, we still got to figure that one out. But no, I mean it's going to be so fun, and that amongst any of those guys in the top 20, you would feel honored. So it's a shame they can't take more, but you're thankful to be in the group that you're in, and yeah, I am so excited.
Well, and I just think that what they're doing for reining, for cow horse, I've heard through the grapevine that maybe even cutting down in the future. And I think it's so cool what we're doing to kind of get the public involved with the sport that maybe don't actually watch horses. Like my boyfriend is not a horse person. I mean, he watches me and he videos me and he says good job all the time. I appreciate it. I'll like lose the cow and he's like, you did so good. I'm like, thank you.
That's so nice.
But he's even like, he watches the TV shows, he loves Yellowstone, the Last Cowboy, and even he is like, I want to go to that. Like, I want to go watch these guys. he loves the horses because I love the horses, but outside of that, he would have no reason to go to a horse show. So I think it's cool that they're kind of trying to make it exciting for the public.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think people are excited about it because things are starting to open up, and it's just an event that people can look forward to, and it's going to be an event with some amazing some of the best reiners and reining horses in their industry, and with the top 15 of the cow horse. It's going to be very spectator friendly, and it should be a lot of fun. It's going to be such great camaraderie between everybody in both events. I'm very excited for it. I'm looking forward to it.
The $150,000 purse also doesn't hurt, but
that sounds nice too.
Speaking of sidebar, I was very excited when I got money at the horse show that I went to, because I was like, for all around, I was like, oh, I was like I was doing points for so long, and I was like, wait, people actually like get money back?
Get paid?
It's insane.
I was like, wait, I can actually pay for my entry fee?
Yeah, like, what am I doing? I've just been giving my money to them.
I know. Maybe that's the other reason why I love cow horse so much. I went from getting points in the all around to all of a sudden I'm getting paid to do this.
I mean, I'm by no means making the same kind of money you are, and I was excited. I was like, man, I got $500 at this last horse show. Like, I was stoked.
Yeah, you didn't go home in the hole.
And of course, so my dear friends who are clients of yours, Janie, Jill, and Bill Toynton, are the people that I ride with. They are very close friends of mine, and they took me to the horse show, and they're the ones that have been kind of like taking me under their wing to show me everything. And they were just like, oh yeah, like, because $300 is like nothing for like what they're used to competing. And I'm like, yeah, like I won the 5K, and I got like $300, and I was so excited. You could have thought that I won the Congress.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I was very excited when I found out that you could actually win some money and maybe not go home completely, broke, have a little bit of money back.
Pay for your hotel or something.
Yeah. I was like, man, yeah. I was like, I covered. I was like, I covered 75% of my entry fee. This is great. I still had to pay the cattle fee and the stall and the shavings, but hey, I got like part of my entry fee paid for.
It's so true.
Okay, so you were reserve at the fraternity. Was that the year that you got the arena record as well for the fence work?
Yeah, real close to the arena record. Yeah.
Really close. Yeah. I just remember, like, literally I had chills when I watched that documentary, and they showed you the next year, and just the announcer and that ride, it was just so cool. And I was just like, oh my God, do that. Like, sold all my saddles, like all my clothing. I was like, I'm all in now.
It's so much more intense than anything that I'm used to watching. Like, it's actually fun to watch. Like, you're not knowing what's going to happen and everything. You can sit there and watch the same horsemanship pattern for all day, and it's like watching paint dry, but with the cows and everything, it's just so exciting. So
yeah, it is. I think that's what keeps you hooked. I mean, you have some incredible highs and you can have some incredible lows, but it's those highs that keep you hooked and keep you going. You just crave that moment again, and you crave that feeling of, because especially in the fence work, in any event, but especially in the fence work, you can go from hero to zero or zero to hero in a matter of seconds, and it's those highs that keep you craving and keeping you wanting more, and it's what gets you through the times that are maybe a little less than desirable.
Another thing that I just love about it too is, like, you can have the horsepower and you can have the best horse in that arena, but that cow can humble you really fast.
It doesn't matter. You can rerun that finals. We rerun that finals in Vegas any given day, and there will be a different winner. I guarantee it. It's not. There's really nice horses, and you have an idea of who may make a finals, or you know what I mean, those horses that are just so consistent. But at the end of the day too, it's a luck of the draw, and you can rerun any of those finals any day, and the outcome could be completely flipped around.
I think that's another thing that really just like attracted me to the sport is just, like I don't have the money to spend what I would have had to spend to be competitive in the all around like I was when I was a youth and just starting out as an amateur. But I feel like in the cow horse there is that ability to you don't have to spend that much money and still be good at it because it doesn't you can spend $300,000 on a horse and still not be able to cut a cow.
Right. I mean,
It takes a little bit of skill and horsemanship. You can't, and I'm not saying that the all around you don't because that is a totally different animal. And like I
right.
said, I'm so thankful for that background. But I
Yeah.
just,
Absolutely.
it's very different when you have another animal in that arena and you don't know how to control it. Like
No.
if you don't know how to read that cow, like you're done.
Yeah.
It
And
definitely
nerve, the nerves of it is you just don't know when you walk through that gate what you're going to get on the other end.
it definitely shows a lot about like who you are as a rider, being able to do that. And there's so many variables that kind of freaks me out. I don't know. I think I'm too much of a control freak to not know what I'm gonna get.
I am very much of a control freak, and it's sometimes a hard pill to swallow. Or
Yeah.
perfect.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, the perfectionist thing. I understand. I blame the all around. I really do. There you
Yeah.
you have to be a perfectionist to do well in it.
Yeah.
You do.
Um but yeah, you really have to learn to trust your horse when you're going down the fence because if you try to turn too soon or like I mean a lot of things can go wrong. It takes a lot of ability to trust your horse and do it.
You gotta trust your training.
I like that. So, is there any like philosophies that you kind of took away from your time working for the people that you worked for that you still apply to your current training program?
I honestly, probably the biggest thing that I took away from both of them, and I mean Todd and Ron are two completely different trainers and both incredibly successful and both incredibly great people. And but the biggest thing I think that I took away from both of them, and the luxury of working for both of them. I mean, worked for Ron for 4.5 years and Todd for 5. Is the consistency of a program, the consistency of good, bad, or indifferent. They both good, bad, or indifferent. They both preached consistency. Ron was all about going back to that foundation. If you step them up and something the wheels kind of fall off when you try to step them up, you always have that foundation to go back to. And when I worked for Todd was the same way. I mean, obviously his program is a lot different than Ron's, but his program is so consistent and so yeah, everybody learns and grows and you tweak things here and there in your program, but the consistency that I learned from both of them, completely different programs, but stay consistent. I mean, that is probably the biggest thing that I took away from working for both of them. And like I said, they're two completely different human beings, and their process is very different. Um, and there's incredible things about both of them. Both programs are great programs, but I think the biggest thing is just to be consistent. Good, bad, or indifferent, you have to be consistent. If you're all over the map, your horse is all over the map, and I don't know how. They always said, how can you expect them to bail you out or be there for you, or when you never know what you're going to have if you yourself are not consistent.
I think that's huge because it is very much a two-way street. You need to trust your horse, but your horse needs to know that you're going to be there and support him, and you're going to do what's right for him. And same can go for even your clients, like being consistent with them. And, the whole thing, I think consistency is huge just throughout the whole horse training business.
Yeah, I think that definitely transfers over throughout probably every discipline. Just the consistency with everything, and that horses learn through repetition. So it's so important.
And like I said, you can alter and tweak that consistency. You're going to grow as a person and grow as a trainer, and your horses are going to grow. But when you change, and obviously to stay relevant and stay fresh, I mean, you have to change and you have to learn and you have to grow, but it's to be consistent with the foundation and consistent with how you can alter things slightly, but don't alter things every day. Don't change daily. If you tweak a little bit here or there, I think that's fine. But the biggest thing is, at the end of the day, stay very consistent, and your horses will come through for you too.
Not to get totally off topic, but that could totally be applied to just a person in general. You can tweak things, and if you want to change a habit or a lifestyle, like, don't decide you're going to wake up all day, like the next morning and be like, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to run a marathon, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Like, you can't change everything. You have to have some consistency in your life, or you're going to go crazy. Your horse is going to go crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and you'll be,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and they'll be lost, and so will you. That's
definitely.
So you obviously got started in your passion, I guess, for riding later in life, which I think you were still a little earlier than I am. So I'm over here like, man, you got started early. I'm like in my 30s, and I'm like, I'm going to do something new. But what would be your advice to somebody who is maybe thinking about getting out of what they're doing, or maybe have never shown and want to show a horse, whether it's the all around or ranch riding or cow horse? What would your advice be to them for getting involved in the sport later?
You just have to do it, and if you love it, it doesn't matter when you start. Like I said, everybody's timeline is different, and nobody's what's the word I'm looking for? I guess timeline is the best way to put it. Nobody's timeline is the same. Some people start when they're 5 years old, 2 years old. Some people start when they're 25 years old or 30 years old. It doesn't matter. If it's what you love and what you want to do, it doesn't matter how old you are. I mean, it absolutely doesn't. I mean, I didn't start it until I was, in my early 20s. I mean, and I was against a lot of people that have done it since that's all they know. So it absolutely doesn't matter. If it's what you feel is right, and you love it and you crave it, and you're happy doing it, do it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the person next to you, it doesn't matter when they started it. If it's what makes you happy and it's what you want to do, then absolutely do it. And the harder you work, the more successful you'll be.
I love it. So true. So before we wrap this up, you're obviously getting ready for Scottsdale. What else is on the lineup for this year? What horses are you bringing to Scottsdale?
So I have 3 Derby horses and a 2-rein horse and a bridle spec horse that I'm taking to Scottsdale. And I'm going to haul some 3-year-olds out there. After Scottsdale, I think there's a little Derby in Tennessee that I'm going to take some horses to. And then we are full swing into fraternity season, ready or not.
Well, I'm excited, and I'm very excited to see you at the Run for Millions. So we'll be cheering you on.
Gosh, how did I Run for the Millions?
You can't forget
that
about that
little show.
Oh man. Well, it sounds like you're going to be busy in Scottsdale. We so appreciate you taking time to come talk with us. I know it's been a little hectic trying to get our schedules to line up, but I'm so
long.
no, I'm so happy we finally got to work it out. But we will be cheering you on this year, and hopefully get to report back on the Run for a Million and how well it went.
Yeah, I'm so excited about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the Ride Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and please be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow Horse and Rider Magazine on social media and find us at horseandrider.com.
If you guys have any questions or comments, please be sure to hit us up at horseandrider@equinenetwork.com. We want to hear from you guys.
And if you like what you're listening to, be sure to leave us a review on iTunes.